Tuesday, December 5, God and the Unknown God. Notice that Paul does not disparage the false religion or false gods of the Athenians. He gathered whatever points of good he could find, few as they were, and capitalized on them. Read Acts 17, verses 22 and 23. What was Paul doing here in his attempt to reach these people with the gospel? Acts 17, beginning at verse 22. Then Paul stood in the midst of the Areopagus and said, Men of Athens, I perceive that in all things you are very religious. For as I was passing through and considering the objects of your worship, I even found an altar with this inscription, To the Unknown God. Therefore, the one whom you worship without knowing, him I proclaim to you. People of Athens, I see that in every way you are very religious. Paul was complimenting pagans. Their religion was misguided in every way, and yet Paul complimented their devotion. Paul continued in verse 23, As I walked around and looked carefully at your objects of worship. By describing his own study of the Athenian religion, Paul communicated a respectful attitude toward the people. He was not rushing in as a self-proclaimed expert with all the answers for how the people needed to change. In reality, he was in fact an expert and did in fact have the answers that these people needed. But he did not present himself that way, or else he would have been rejected outright. Instead, he was seen as someone who cared for the people and desired their good. Commenting on the inscription to the unknown God in verse 23, Paul took advantage of what could be seen as common ground. They believed in God, many actually, which was a great start. Some people back then didn't believe, and could open the way to deeper conversation. He did not scoff at the negative idea of an altar to an unknown God. Instead, he appreciated and admired a people who cared enough about spiritual things to go to the effort and expense of worshipping something they didn't even know, just in case they were missing something. Were they misguided? Of course, but that could be addressed. What was important in the beginning was that they were devout in what they did understand. That, Paul recognized, was material the Holy Spirit could work with. Paul had found a talking point that would pique their interest. And so to finish today, what bridges and points of contact can you think of that would open opportunities for deeper conversation with others with whom you come in contact? You have been listening to a reading of the Adult Sabbath School lessons by Dr. Percy Harrold and the inside story by his niece Sibylla. Apart from being provided free to those who are visually impaired, these audio lessons are available on the official General Conference Sabbath School and Personal Ministry app, on SoundCloud, Apple iTunes, and also on YouTube. Search for Percy Harrold Sabbath to find all of these. And remembering all the time that God is always faithful.